Silence, please. May have to ask the security to escort you out of here if you're going to cause trouble. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Father James. I am drinking from my Glasgow Celtic Football Club mug. Now you might be thinking, well, it's not St. Patrick's Day, why is he drinking from this? Well, some of you may know that I was born and raised in Glasgow, the first 13 years of my life, Glasgow, Scotland. In fact, I was actually born within a quarter mile of the football stadium of this football club. That's where the hospital was. And in Glasgow, there really were two dominant teams. One is Glasgow Celtic. Many people who were from an Irish extraction supported this team. In fact, it was founded by an Irish Christian brother in 1888. That was a long time ago. And then there's another team, I forget what they're called, only kidding. They're called Glasgow Rangers, and they're at the other side of the town. And it's one of the oldest sports rivalries in the history of the world. Check it out online if you don't believe me. And, well, I was raised to be a Glasgow Celtic football supporter. And since I was a little kid, Glasgow Celtic have gone through good times and bad times. And no matter how bad things got, no matter how much things changed, there was just, like, the whole question of supporting some other team is like, it's just a non-issue. I mean, generally, people who support these two teams, it is a lifelong, unconditional condition. It doesn't matter how bad the team is, how bad the players are, who the manager is, who the owners are. It's the same for everyone who supports this team. You're going to support this team no matter what. And right now, they happen to be doing quite well, so I'm quite happy to be talking about my support of this team. They're currently co-leaders in points in the Scottish Premiership, but they are leading. They're not doing so well in Europe. They're in the Champions League. That's a different story. Although they were the first British team to win the European Cup, which was the Champions League back in 1967. That's just a little aside. Okay, you're thinking, why is he talking about this? I'm talking about support of a sports team to contrast it with our call as Christians to live in this world, this highly politicized world, at this particular time of year, this particular time, this season of elections. Now, I know that this video is being released on the very day that our brothers and sisters in the United States are choosing a new government, a new leader, a new president, and you may be watching this video the day after, so you may already know. I'm recording this video before the election day, so we don't know what's going to happen. And also, here in Canada, Nova Scotia, we just finished municipal elections, and the provincial government just announced provincial elections, which will be happening in about 3 weeks from now. And in Canada, at the federal level, at the national level, maybe there's going to be a federal election. No one knows. There's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of passionate conversations happening in Canada and south of the border. Even in Canada, we're very much caught up in what's unfolding in south of us. And the truth is that you cannot support a political party the way that you support a sports team. And in terms of looking at how we negotiate these waters, that's the first point I want to make. You can't have blind loyalty to any political party or any politician, not if you're a Christian. Our primary identity and loyalty is as followers of Jesus Christ. We're about the party of the kingdom of God. That's who we align ourselves with. We are, as St. Peter says, we are aliens and exiles in this present world. And this present world is changing. Maybe in the past there were, deep family loyalties to a particular party. My family is liberal. My family is conservative. My family is New Democrat. My family is Republican or Democrat. But, so what? Political platforms change. You go back in history and look at, which party was left of center or right of center or far right or far left or center. That's all changed. Everything constantly changes. Platforms change, cultures change, societies change, issues change, politicians change. You have the whole question of who is the national leader, who is the local leader. It all changes. And so simple blind allegiance, I think, is a very irresponsible stance for a man or woman of faith. It's up to us to look at all of the issues very, very carefully and realize that our primary allegiance is not to some soccer team or a football team, as we would say, but to the principles of the kingdom of God. That's number one point. The second point is that if we do that, then we'll quickly realize that, there is no one party or platform or politician who's going to satisfy the demands of the kingdom. There's always going to be something lacking because guess what? The platform of your particular party is never going to correspond with that of the gospel, with that of the Christian faith, because the Christian faith defies being contained in political categories of right or left. There are aspects of our faith as Catholics that belong in the so-called, social conservative wing, and there are other aspects of our Catholic faith that would be considered to be part of a leftist agenda. The point is the gospel doesn't fit in political categories. And if you've been successful in making it fit into a political category, maybe you need to go back and read the gospel. We are exiles in this world, in this land. There is no political party or agenda that will usher in the kingdom of God on earth. It's not going to happen. This is an imperfect world. And as Pope Francis said recently with regard to the election in the United States, for Catholics, for people of faith, it really is about choosing the lesser of two evils because both sides lack. No side is complete. And so that then means it becomes a matter of personal discernment as we weigh up what is lacking, what is good, what is positive in each platform, the value of local candidates versus national candidates, the value of a decision to vote strategically for the sake of a greater good. All of these things have to be taken into consideration, especially weighing up particular moral issues. Some moral issues are of greater import than others. And in the end, it's a matter for men and women of faith to prayerfully discern, to pray, and to examine each of our consciences, and to go, therefore, and vote accordingly. So that's the second principle. The third principle is that in the end, we can identify ideologies, ways of thinking that are dangerous, that are destructive. I really believe that. There's clearly things that are true. There's a lot of false ideas out there. There are ideas that we should consider to be enemies. It's an enemy of the truth, an ideology. But we've got to be very careful that we don't move from ideas to people, that we begin to think of people as evil or as enemies. We are called as people of faith to be instruments of God's peace, instruments of reconciliation. And if you've watched any debate or any interview or any of the dialogue that's on social media, it's very acrimonious, it's very toxic, it's very destructive. And you know what I'm talking about here. And let's resist the temptation to add to that toxicity, and let's ask the Lord to help us to be instruments of His peace and reconciliation, especially to our friends in the United States, whatever it is that you're waking to in the morning, whatever news, your land is going to need bridge builders, people to bring healing, people who are going to be willing to find common ground so that your great nation can move forward, regardless of who is the president. And the same here in Canada, same here in Nova Scotia provincially. We can have preferences, we can have strong beliefs, but in the end, we're called to live together in harmony, to love our neighbors, and to care for one another. So let's, as the church, as men and women of faith, be instruments of peace and reconciliation, and let's not add to the division and toxicity that is already omnipresent. Sometimes it feels that way. So 3 principles. Number 1, it's not a soccer team. You can't support your politicians like a soccer team. Number 2, no political platform will ever correspond to the gospel platform. And number 3, when it's all said and done, we as men and women of faith, as the church, are called to be instruments of God's peace. So a few thoughts. Hopefully that's helpful to you. And let's continue to pray for our country, our province, and our friends in the United States. Thanks, everyone. And remember, Glasgow Celtic.